Welcome to the Lost in History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one.
This child is 4 years old. Her name is Mary. The year is 1911, and she is in Dunbar, Louisiana, at an oyster cannery. Every day she peels 2 full pots of oysters. Her mother works beside her, peeling faster than anyone else in the facility, earning $1.50 per day. Her mother also has an infant at home who is sick. This photograph was taken by Louis Hine, who spent years documenting child labor in America, so that people could no longer pretend they did not know it was happening. It worked. Eventually. This is a Jewish man standing in front of his shop in Germany, 1933. He is wearing his Iron Cross, earned during World War I, where he fought for Germany. A Nazi soldier is standing in front of his door, ordered to intimidate customers into staying away. The man is not moving. He served his country. He was decorated for it. And now his country has decided he is its enemy. He is standing in front of his own door, wearing the proof that he gave everything they asked for. That was the year it began. It would get much worse. These people were prisoners on a train. The year is 1945, and they are being freed by Allied forces near the end of World War II. They have been in the cars for days, maybe longer. They are thin. They are blinking in light they have not seen in weeks. Some of them are too weak to stand. What you are looking at is not liberation in the way the movies show it. It is the moment after liberation, when the war is technically over, but the damage is still very much present. These people survived something most people cannot imagine. This man standing with Adolf Hitler is Albert Speer. Speer was Hitler's personal architect, and later the Reich Minister of Armaments, responsible for running the Nazi war economy using forced labor from concentration camps. This photograph was taken at Berghof, Hitler's mountain retreat. After the war, Speer stood trial at Nuremberg. He claimed he did not know about the Holocaust. Most historians believe he did. He was sentenced to 20 years. He served every one of them, then wrote a best-selling memoir presenting himself as a man who made a mistake. He was very good at controlling his own story. This is Joe Biden. He is 30 years old, and he is being sworn in as a United States Senator from Delaware. The year is 1973. He had just become the youngest person ever elected to the Senate at that time. He had also just lost his wife and infant daughter in a car accident, weeks before this ceremony. He took the oath at his son's hospital bedsides because they had been injured in the same crash. He commuted by train from Delaware to Washington every day for decades, so he could be home with his boys at night. Whatever you think of the politician, this is the photograph of a man who kept going. These women are building warplanes. The year is 1942, and the factory is in Fort Worth, Texas. The men who work these machines are overseas. Someone had to take their place. Millions of women did exactly that, stepping into jobs that had never been offered to them before. They were called Rosie, the Riveters. When the war ended, most of them were sent home. The jobs were given back. But the door had been opened, and it would never fully close again. Oswald Mosley is giving a speech in Britain in the 1930s. He is the leader of the British Union of Fascists, arm raised in a Roman salute. And then a stone hits him in the head. The photograph captures the moment of impact, or just after it. Someone in that crowd had been carrying a rock and decided to use it. Britain in the 30s had its own fascist movement, larger than most people remember today. And it had its own resistance, mostly ordinary people who showed up and threw things. Benjamin Ferencz became the chief prosecutor at a Nuremberg war crimes trial in 1947. He was 27 years old and had never tried a case before. The men he prosecuted were members of mobile killing units responsible for the deaths of over 1 million people. He won. Every single defendant was convicted. Ferencz spent the rest of his life advocating for international law and a permanent world court. He lived to be 103 years old. He was still giving interviews in his final years. He never stopped believing that law was stronger than war. These women have tattoos on their hands, wrists, and faces. They are Croatian Catholics from Bosnia, and the markings are called sakanje, a word that means incisions. The practice is centuries old. During the long Ottoman occupation of the Balkans, Christian families tattooed their children so that if they were captured and forced to convert to Islam, they could still be identified as Christian. The markings were a form of resistance, written directly onto the body. The photographs from the 1930s and 1940s show the last generation of women who carried these tattoos. These people are looking up. The year is 1948, and American cargo planes are landing in West Berlin one after another, carrying food, coal, and medicine. Soviet forces have blockaded the city, cutting off all land routes. The Western Allies responded by flying in everything the city needed, around the clock, for almost a year. More than 200,000 flights. It was the largest humanitarian airlift in history at that point. The people looking up at those planes knew that each one meant another day the city would survive. This man performed a comedy routine in 1972 in Wisconsin and got arrested for it. His name was George Carlin. The routine was called 7 Words You Can Never Say on Television. And the moment he spoke those words on stage, the police were waiting. Carlin was charged with violating obscenity laws. The case went through the courts for years. He lost in some places and won in others. But the fight changed the legal boundaries of free speech in America in ways that still hold today. Some people do their most important work by getting arrested. These men are sitting on a carpet in Peshawar, around 1865. The city is now in Pakistan. The photograph was taken during the period of British colonial presence in the region. Look at the 2 men near the center. They are not looking at the camera. They are looking at each other, and not warmly. A British photographer brought them together for this image. They may have been rivals or enemies, persuaded or compelled to sit side by side. The tension in this photograph survived the 160 years since it was taken. American nurses are resting in 1945. Walshun. They are leaning against a 40mm anti-aircraft gun somewhere in the European theater of World War II. They are relaxed, maybe even laughing. These women were not far from the fighting. Army nurses worked in field hospitals that were sometimes within range of enemy artillery. They operated under fire, treated wounds that most people never see, and were awarded military honors at rates that only began to be acknowledged decades later. This photo shows a quiet moment. They did not have many of those. Look at these soldiers. They are wearing gas masks, and they are peeling onions. This is October 1941, in Tobruk, Libya, in the middle of one of the most contested battles of World War II. British troops had been holding the city against German and Italian forces for months. Rations were short. Morale was tested every day. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, someone had onions, someone had gas masks, and someone had a camera. The result is one of the strangest photographs of the entire war. 4 men are walking together. The year is 1954. Their names are Albert Einstein, Hideki Yukawa, John Wheeler, and Homi Jahangir Bhabha. Between these 4 men, they shaped almost everything we understand about how the universe works. Nuclear forces, quantum mechanics, black holes, relativity. These are not theories from different eras. These 4 men were all alive, all working, all talking to each other in the same year. This photograph is the closest thing physics has to a dream team. This is an industrial boiler in Norway, photographed in 1948. It is large, round, and made of riveted steel. It generated the steam that powered machines in the decades before electricity reached every factory and mill. Looking at it now, it is hard to imagine that this was once cutting-edge technology. Every era has its boilers. The machines that seem permanent and essential are always eventually replaced by something the next generation will take for granted. New York City, July 7th, 1941. A protest is taking place in the streets. The United States has not yet entered World War II, but the debate about whether it should is everywhere. Some Americans want intervention. Others want nothing to do with European wars. The crowd in this photograph has come out to make their position known. Whatever side they were on, within 5 months the question would be answered for them. December would come, and Pearl Harbor would change the argument permanently. John Wheeler spent most of his career asking questions that made other physicists uncomfortable. He worked alongside Niels Bohr on the early development of nuclear theory. He helped push the field of general relativity forward when it had been nearly abandoned. And he gave the black hole its name, not because he discovered it, because he found exactly the right word for something that had existed in equations, but not yet in common language. Sometimes the most important contribution a scientist can make is naming what is already there. Hideki Yukawa did something no Japanese scientist had ever done. He won the Nobel Prize in physics. He did it by predicting the existence of a particle nobody had discovered yet, a particle that holds the nucleus of every atom together. He was right. Physicists found exactly what he said they would find. Yukawa was 39 years old when he won. He had made his prediction at 27. He spent 12 years waiting for the world to catch up. Everyone knows the name Albert Einstein. Fewer people know that he was rejected by the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology on his first application. He had to repeat a year of school before they accepted him. When he finally published his theory of relativity in 1905, he was working as a patent clerk because no university would hire him. He was also, quietly and consistently, one of the most committed advocates for civil rights and against nuclear weapons of anyone in public life during the 20th century. Homi Bhabha was the man who built India's scientific foundation. He established institutions, attracted researchers, and convinced a newly independent government to invest in physics at a moment when the country had almost nothing. He founded the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and the Atomic Energy Establishment. He died in a plane crash in 1966, on his way to a meeting in Vienna. India's nuclear program continued without him. He had already done the most important part. The war is over. The year is 1945, and these soldiers are coming home. Their faces tell different stories. Some are grinning. Some are blank. Some are looking at something far away that no one standing on the dock can see. These men left as young men. Some of them left as boys. What came back was older, quieter, and changed in ways that would take years to understand. The celebrations on the dock were real. What happened after the celebrations was something else entirely. This is Times Square, New York City, April 26, 1965. A man named Jack Hickman is marching through the square carrying a sign. He is a nightclub owner. The Cold War is at its height. Anti-communist sentiment is running through every layer of American public life. What Hickman is protesting in this photograph is not entirely clear from the image alone, but the energy of the street is clear. New York in 1965 was a city arguing loudly with itself about who it was and what it believed. That argument never fully ended. Her name is Nieves Fernandez. She is a school teacher. And during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines between 1942 and 1945, she led a guerrilla unit of more than 100 fighters. She's shown here demonstrating the technique she used to kill Japanese soldiers silently. She is holding a bolo knife. She taught herself. She taught others. She protected her community when no one else was coming to protect it. After the war, she returned to teaching. The school was still there. She made sure it was. This is Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, 1933. The movie is King Kong, and the ticket booth outside is shaped like a giant ape. King Kong was not just a movie. It was an event. The premiere drew thousands. The effects were unlike anything audiences had ever seen. People did not know what to make of a 30-foot gorilla climbing a skyscraper. They screamed. They gasped. They bought tickets again the next day. Some films do not just entertain. They change what movies are allowed to be. This is a French biplane in 1916, photographed from above a field near Paris. The photograph comes from an aerial album dated May 4th of that year. The plane is small, fragile, made of wood and canvas. The men who flew these machines had almost no protection. They wore leather jackets and goggles. If the engine failed, there was no ejection seat and no parachute. The average life expectancy of a pilot on the Western Front in 1916 was 11 days. This plane was photographed. Many of the planes photographed that year were not flying much longer after. A coal miner is standing in a hallway in Gelsenkirchen, Germany, 1958. He is waiting to use the communal shower after his shift. His face is covered in black dust. His clothes are soaked through. He looks tired in a way that does not go away with sleep. The mines of the Ruhr Valley were among the most productive and most dangerous in the world. Thousands of men like this one went underground every day. Some of them did not come back. Most of them did, and then went again the next morning. These men had criminal records. Their names were wanted across the American West. These are real mugshots from the era between 1860 and 1910, when lawmen collected portraits of outlaws the same way we collect evidence today. Look at their faces. Some are calm. Some look almost proud. None of them knew they would end up on the wrong side of history, and most of them did not live long enough to regret it. Philadelphia, March 9, 1966. Top right. A group of protesters has gathered in the street. Their signs oppose a war. The war they are protesting is the War of 1812. You read that correctly. 154 years after the conflict ended, the American Procrastinators Club officially organized a demonstration against it. This was comedy disguised as protest, but underneath the joke was something real. The club existed to satirize the speed of American civic life. The crowd that showed up was bigger than anyone expected. Two groups of young men are standing side by side on a street in England. The year is 1937. One group is wearing fine coats and polished shoes. The other is wearing worn trousers and work jackets. They are the same age. They grew up in the same country, but they grew up in completely different worlds. The British called them toffs and toughs, and the distance between them was not measured in miles. It was measured in everything else. This photograph was taken 2 years before a war that would put both groups in the same uniform. Paris, June 25, 1848. The barricades are up on Rue Saint-Maur. Workers have piled furniture, cobblestones, and wooden beams across the street. For 4 days, these barricades were the front line of a civil war within the city. The workers who built them had overthrown a monarchy months earlier and believed the revolution was theirs. The government believed otherwise. When the fighting ended, more than 10,000 people had been killed or deported. The photo was taken at the barricades before the final assault. It is one of the earliest photographs of an armed uprising ever made. A soldier is sleeping. Next to him, also sleeping, is an older man. The older man traveled to the front lines of World War I, somewhere in Serbia, between 1914 and 1915, to see his son. The journey would have taken days. The front was not safe. There were no guarantees of passage or return. He came anyway because his son was there. They are both asleep now, curled close together. Two men in a war, one of whom still has a father watching over him. The year is 1869. People have gathered in a room, dressed in their best clothing. They are talking, exchanging news, forming connections. There is no telephone. There is no telegraph in most homes. If you wanted to know what was happening in the world, you came to a gathering like this and you listened. Information traveled at the speed of conversation. And the people who showed up to these rooms were the ones who shaped how their communities understood events. This was social networking. It was just slower. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward are shopping for books in Paris. The year is 1959. They had been married for 2 years. He was already one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. She had just won the Academy Award for Best Actress. And here they are, on an ordinary street, carrying books, looking like two people who just want a quiet afternoon. No security, no crowd, just two people in love in a beautiful city. Urban planners in the 1950s had a vision: clean lines, wide roads, tall buildings surrounded by open space. They called it modern. They meant rational, efficient, controlled. Across the United States, Europe, and beyond, cities were torn down and rebuilt according to this new logic. Old neighborhoods disappeared, new apartment towers went up, and the people who had lived in those neighborhoods were moved. Decades later, many of those towers were demolished. The vision turned out to be a mistake that took 50 years to admit. Paris, 1930. Along the banks of the Seine, near Notre Dame Cathedral, booksellers have set up their stalls. These vendors, known as bouquinistes, had been selling books along the river for centuries. Old novels, political pamphlets, rare maps, secondhand philosophy. You could find almost anything if you knew how to look. The cathedral stands in the background, gray and enormous. And at the foot of it, on a cold day in 1930, books are still being sold to anyone willing to stop and look. Luke is about to land on a pile of mattresses. This is 1979, and whoever Luke is, he looks absolutely committed to this decision. The photo captures the half-second before impact, when everything is still possible and nothing has gone wrong yet. There is something deeply human about this image. Every generation has its version of this moment. The moment when you decide to jump before you fully understand what jumping means. Paris, 1890. Time tea. The restaurant Frederic Dallaire is full. The tables are set with white linen. The waiters are in uniform. The guests are dressed for the occasion. This was a different era of dining. Going to a restaurant like this was not just eating. It was a performance. You were seen. You were judged. The food mattered, but the appearance mattered just as much. These were the rules of Parisian society, and everyone at these tables knew them by heart. Inside the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, sometime between 1940 and 1946, sunlight is coming through the upper windows, cutting through the dark in long, slow beams. This church has been standing for over 1,600 years. It has survived invasions, earthquakes, fires, and occupations. Pilgrims from every part of the Christian world have walked through its doors. And in this photograph, taken during the worst years of the 20th century, it looks exactly like a place where people go to be reminded that some things are older than any war. This is H.L. Baudouin in 1931, standing next to his deep-sea diving suit, Time. The suit looks like something from a science fiction film. It is made of metal, jointed at the arms and legs, sealed against the pressure of the deep ocean. Baudouin designed it himself because existing suits could not go deep enough. He wanted to reach depths that had never been reached. The suit made it possible. It also made him look like something that did not belong on land, which is perhaps the point. Los Angeles, 1969. Inside the Greyhound bus terminal, passengers are sitting in rows of chairs, and most of them are watching television. This was new. Waiting rooms had always meant waiting. Now they meant watching. Television had entered public spaces, turning idle time into something to be filled. Nobody thought much of it at the time, but this photograph captures the exact moment when the relationship between Americans and screens began to change in ways that would only become clear much later. This is pasta drying in the open air. The year is 1929, in southern Italy. Hundreds of long strands are hung over wooden racks in the street, drying in the sun and wind. This was not a spectacle. It was Tuesday. Pasta production in the South was almost entirely manual, carried out by families and small workshops who had been doing it the same way for generations. No machines, no packaging, just wheat, water, hands, and time. This is where Italian food culture was born. Look at this couple. They are getting married. The year is 1903, and they are standing in rural Sweden, dressed in the exact clothing their grandparents wore. Swedish wedding traditions in the early 20th century were not just celebrations. They were rituals tied to harvests, to land, to survival. The bride does not smile. That was not the custom. You stood still, you made your vows, and you built your life. That was the deal. A couple in 1915, dressed as if they are attending a state dinner. They are simply going out for the afternoon. This was the standard for a midday outing in the early 20th century. Men wore suits with ties and hats. Women wore long skirts, gloves, and pinned-up hair. There was no such thing as casual. Every time you stepped outside, you were presenting yourself to the world. Getting dressed was not a choice. It was a responsibility. New York City, 1915. The skyline is already changing. Towers are going up where there used to be open sky. The streets are packed with pushcarts, horses, automobiles, and people from every corner of the world. The city is absorbing waves of immigration, building upward because there is no room to build outward, and turning itself into something the world has never seen before. This photo was taken at the exact moment New York began to become the city we recognize today. This church is not finished. The year is the 1880s, and workers are still raising the bell tower of Sacré-Cœur on the hill of Montmartre in Paris. The church was not built to be beautiful. It was built as a response. France had just lost a war, lost an emperor, and lost its confidence. The government ordered this basilica constructed on the highest point in the city as a statement of faith and national recovery. It took 41 years to complete. These men are standing in the Netherlands in the year 1900. Their clothing is unmistakable. Wide trousers, wooden shoes, dark jackets, distinct caps. This was not costume. This was daily life in parts of the Dutch countryside where tradition moved slowly and people wore what their fathers had worn. The garments told you which region a man came from, sometimes which village. Clothing was identity. These men did not need to say where they were from. You could see it. Boulevard Saint-Germain, Paris, 1950. Dewaike. A man named Maurice Zalewski is standing next to his car. Take a long look at that car. It is a Citroën traction Avant, one of the most advanced automobiles of its era. Front-wheel drive, low center of gravity, a body design years ahead of anything else on the road. To own one in 1950 was to own something rare. Zalewski looks like he knows it. He is standing there the way people stand next to things they are proud of. A father stands next to his daughter on her wedding day. The photo is from the 1950s. He is wearing his best suit. She is in white. Her bridesmaids are behind her, smiling the way people smile when the camera comes out at a wedding. But look at the father. He is not smiling the same way. He is looking at his daughter with something quieter, something that does not have an easy name. Every father who has stood in that exact spot knows what it is. Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Winter of 1939. The temperature dropped so fast the city could not keep up. Pipes burst. Roads cracked. People wrapped themselves in whatever they could find. These were the years before central heating reached working-class neighborhoods. The cold was not just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. And photographs from those weeks show a city doing its best to survive something it had not prepared for.